Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's is a complete car facility for all your automotive repair and maintenance needs. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.
Welcome back to Panther Sports Talk after the new year now, and joined by EIU men's basketball coach Jay Spoonhour. And Coach, we haven't had you on yet, partly because football went so long, and then we had an extended break, and then the weather hampered last week where we were going to try to get there. So you guys kind of, the last time that somebody talked to you, Mike Brad kind of did a season preview, and you talked about you had a lot of guys that were kind of have to find roles. And watching you through the year, you still got a lot of guys that maybe still trying to find out some of the roles for how they're going to fit for you guys.
Yeah, that was the way it was early in the year. We played a lot of people, mainly just because I couldn't figure out which guys were going to play well, and we were sort of searching around, and it's narrowed down a little bit, but we're still in the same thing. We're looking for consistent play, from game to game and really day to day, which is kind of how it goes with young guys and new guys, and it's the things that you do aren't really habit yet, and until they become where their habit, then you're going to get inconsistent play, and so that's kind of what we've had. But here lately, we've gotten pretty. I mean, I think Sherm's been really steady these last 6 or 7 games. Reggie, after he had a concussion, had to sit for. Really, he wasn't right for a month, and that's tough. And then Chris Olivier getting in here, so the team's quite a bit different now than it was early in the year, and this, once you get in your conference season, that's really where stuff starts picking up, and you're playing teams that are a little bit more your level. The early in the year, you're playing hard games and games on the road, and that's tough on guys.
Now, you talked about some of the guys, and we'll kind of go through them as we do the segment here, but you look on the roster and you see a lot of new names and some guys that have some accolades from high school or from some other places that they played. But I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult it is to kind of mesh all those things together. And you can have the most talented individuals in the world, but if they haven't played together, it's hard to kind of find a rhythm and some consistency.
Well, that's the trick, I mean, the thing about it is that some of the guys that are maybe considered are more talented guys and guys that are a little bit more accomplished, they've transferred in, and like in Chris Olivier's case, he hasn't really played in any meaningful games. He played a few games at Northern Iowa, but he hasn't played in any meaningful games since high school. That was 3 years ago. Same thing with Reggie, really. And so, I was told the fellas, I just said, look, I was watching the Packers play, and they're talking about Aaron Rodgers and how he sat for 2 weeks and how it's really hard to get your rhythm back. Well, that's 2 weeks, and that's Aaron Rodgers. You can imagine what it's like for a kid, and after 2 or 3 years of, now they practice and they do all that, but it's different when you get out there and you have to play with referees and you play with another team. And so those are all things that you just have to work through, and you just hope that guys kind of keep their, just don't lose confidence and don't get their heads down, because, you're going up against every night of guys that are seniors and juniors, and we're sitting out there with one senior, so it's easy thing for guys to get discouraged, and you certainly don't want that.
Now, one senior talked about Sherman Blanford. You touched on him earlier, and he's kind of found his rhythm now with the other guys around him. I think he knew what his role was, but I think when you talked about guys don't play with those guys, sometimes they don't know what other people's roles are until they kind of get used to them, and Sherm's a good rebounder and a good offensive threat for you guys down there.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is I'm sure Sherm came into this year and he's thinking, hey, I'm the only senior, and I need to step up and I need to do things, and so when guys think about stepping up, they all think about going and making plays. Well, that's where Sherm would get himself into trouble. There's nothing wrong with him making plays when it's available, but he would have times where he'd try to make a play that wasn't there, and then he'd make a bad play, and then he'd feel bad, and then he'd go down and try to do it again. That's what you run into. And so until guys get their roles of figuring out, all right, who are we trying to get the ball to? Those are all things that have to get worked out. That's much smoother now than it was early in the year. At the first 6, 7 games, we didn't know who was supposed to shoot it, and so everybody kind of would fire it up every now and then, and they had to get that figured out. Well, that's getting closer. We don't have those issues anymore. We certainly have other things that we've got to get better at. But I think Sherm, he's a consistent guy. Sherm brings it every day at practice. Sherm's there every game. He's trying to do, the mistakes he's ever made have all been trying to compete. It's never been anything where he was lazy or whatever. It was just because he's trying to make plays. And so he's kind of got a better feel on that, and the other guys are fitting into what their roles are. So you just hope that can kind of progress and that you continue to do what you're supposed to do. And then hopefully next year when we're in this situation, we don't have to wait 8 or 9 games to get things figured out like we have the last couple of years.
Now, the other guy you mentioned that transferred, Chris Olivier, came in, was a mid-year transfer, so he is able to play really only since about conference season started. And like you talked about, it's different than practicing against your own guys, and you learn their tricks and stuff like that and how you can cheat a little bit in practice. But when you go against other teams, you kind of have to get back in the rhythm. But I think in the few games people have seen him, and 3 of them have been here at home, they kind of saw what you guys saw, and that made him an interesting transfer for you.
Well, he can score around the basket. When he gets it, we've had issues last year and then early this year of just get the ball around the goal and not make it. He can do that. He's a good defender when he's at the rim, when guys will take it and drive. But the thing about what you said about just practicing or playing pickup or whatever it is, there's nobody calling travel. There's nobody calling fouls on block. You just argue about whether or not it was a travel, and then it's over. Well, in games where there's 65 possessions, you can't go out and travel 2 or 3 times. You can't just shoot it and miss it and turn it over and make bad plays. So those are the adjustments that a guy like Chris has to make, and he's done a pretty good job of that.
Now, you guys are into conference play now. You started your first 5 games against the East Division. You guys will get into cross-divisional this weekend, 2-3 against the East Division. And one of those wins this past weekend on the road at Jacksonville State, and so it's always good to be able to pick up a road win. Is that kind of where you guys thought you were matching up against those teams, or do you think you'd be a little bit farther than that?
Oh, no, I think that it's worked out. It was a really good win at Jacksonville. That was a hard game, and really one that with the games coming up, we really needed to get it. When you map out the season and we showed all the guys, hey, here's what you've got. You've got this group of 3 games, and then you've got 2 here, and you want to try to split here or whatever. You never plan for that kind of thing, but you show them that, hey, even if you lose 2 out of 3 at home, you can still be able to get to a 500 or better record, which is really what we're trying to do. Last year we talked about just getting to the conference tournament. This year I think we need to have a 500 or better record in the league. I think that's a viable goal. It's something that we can do. I think it's about right. Last year, I don't know, did we beat a team on the other side? I'm not sure we did. And so at least we've gotten a couple of them now, and that's pretty good. But I think the league is really balanced. I think Austin Peay is obviously better. Murray is different, but I'm not so sure they're not just as good as they were. Their team is pretty darn good this year, and they're in the same boat where they're new guys making mistakes early. Get a new guy at semester. They figured it out. They're 4-0 in the league. Here you go, talking about Murray. What's Murray going to have? Murray's 4-0 in the league, just like Murray usually is. And so, I think you can get into too much of looking ahead and trying to figure out where you stand. But it's not a bad thing to do to kind of measure yourself now. And here's where you sit. I think the win at Jacksonville was really good because it put us right in the middle of stuff. We're not at the top of it, but we're not at the bottom either. We're right in the middle of the mix.
Now, you talked about that last year. I think it was 0-5 or 0-6 you started. And you started against the other side. And I remember after Murray State game, and they were down there, you guys kind of sat around as a staff and you said, okay, now our conference season starts. We're going to play mainly divisional games on our side, and if we can finish ahead of those teams, we have a chance to make the tournament. That's going to start again this weekend, and it's going to start once again with Murray State on Thursday night. And you talked about they're just as good, but they're made up a lot differently. They lose the household names that people are used to, and they've kind of reloaded there, which they've been able to do over the years.
Sure. Everybody around here has seen Murray for a long time, and when's the last time you saw Murray trot out a bunch of guys that couldn't play? They always have guys that can play. Just because they have different numbers or different names doesn't mean anything. The kid Cameron Payne's a freshman, and he's a really good player. He's been their leading scorer. He's averaging 20 a game in conference. As a freshman, and he's playing point guard, and he's not really a point guard. He's kind of a scoring guy, but he's not a point guard who's getting 90 assists, and 40 turnovers. So he's just a good player. And then the TJ Sapp comes in and has come in at semester and really done a good job. We know Dexter Fields can shoot it. He was on that group last year. So there's a lot of different guys, but they play like Murray, and they're going to. You're not going to have any trouble figuring out which team's Murray when they come in here on Thursday. They're going to look like they've looked.
Then on Saturday, you guys will face Austin Peay. Dave Luce gave up the athletic director position, and I don't know as a basketball coach if that's a good thing that now his attention is focused strictly on basketball, but they seem to have kind of righted the ship after they really had a down year by Austin Peay standards last year.
Yeah, well, we all know he can coach, and he had, like happened. I mean, it happens to everybody. I mean, you look around, and if you have a team that's young guys or whatever, you just don't go win very many. And so they sure look good now. I mean, they've got, the kid inside Horton is really affects the game probably more than anybody in the league. Guards are playing better, and so this will be, this is always when Murray, those two travel partners come through. I mean, that's the way it's always been. Last year was an off year for Peay, but now it's right back the way it was when Murray and Austin Peay come in. You're hoping that you can get a split, and if you could just somehow figure out a way to win the first one, you can figure out a way to get greedy. But that's when Murray and Austin Peay come through, it's tough.
Right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time. There's a reminder the Panthers will be in action 7 o'clock against Murray State on Thursday night, 2 o'clock against Austin Peay on Saturday. On Saturday. We'll be right back with This Week in EIU Athletics.
Panther fans, here's what's going on in Panther athletics. Men's basketball went 1-1 on the road last week in OVC play, losing 81-69 at Tennessee Tech and winning 56-48 at Jacksonville State. They're now 2-3 in OVC play and 5-11 overall. Women's basketball dropped both of their OVC road matches at Jacksonville State and Tennessee Tech. They're now 2-3 in OVC play and 7-9 overall. Now here's what to watch for this week. On Thursday, men's basketball at Lance Arena at 7 o'clock as they take on OVC West rival Murray State. You can watch that game on WEIU TV or listen to it on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU. On Saturday, indoor track with their first meet post-holiday break as they're at the Illinois Invite. Swimming is at Ball State at 1 o'clock for a meet. And it's a Panther basketball doubleheader at Lance Arena as both Panther teams take on Austin Peay. The men's game at 2, the women's game at 4:15. Both can be seen on WEIU TV or listen to them on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU. And on Monday, women's basketball takes on Murray State at 7 o'clock at Lance Arena. You can listen to that game on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU. For Panther Sports Talk, I'm Ramin Kabasyun.
Welcome back to Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU. I'm Rich Moser. We're going to wrap up this week's program with the introductory press conference for new EIU head football coach Kim Dameron. Also a reminder of all the action that's going to take place this weekend, both on Hitmix 88.9 and on WIU TV. The men on Thursday night, 7 o'clock, WIU TV against Murray State, 6:45 pregame show for radio. On Saturday, doubleheader against Austin Peay, also on TV and on radio, 1:45 pregame show for the men, 2 o'clock tip-off for the men on WIU TV, 4:15 approximately is the women's against Austin Peay, and then on next Monday night, the women will be on Hitmix at 7 o'clock against Murray State, 6:45. That's going to wrap up this week of Panther Sports Talk. Thanks for watching, everybody.
In the interview process, the first question I always ask is, what is the opportunity at EIU? What is the opportunity at EIU? And when I was interviewing Kim, he said 2 words: national championship. And that was a great answer. And as we followed up on it, I was also gratified to know he wants to do it the right way. He wants to do it with integrity. He wants to make sure that our student athletes leave with a degree, that they develop to their fullest as athletes, and they develop to their fullest as people, as individuals, as persons who are going to go out in the world and make their mark.
As I said a few years ago, there's a lot of people that can coach football, but there's not a lot of individuals that can demonstrate in an interview process that they can lead, they have high moral values, they care about the young people, they care about academics. You get used to hearing people say what they think you want to hear. You have to look through all of that and find out, is that truly the man or the woman that you're talking to? Without question, Kim has all these characteristics and more. He can coach. He's demonstrated that by the places that he's been, the men that he's worked with, the successes that he's had. I'm confident in his ability to lead our young men. Without question, that came through from the very beginning. As Dr. Peay mentioned, he was the only candidate that said, I want to win a national championship at EIU, and that might have sold me right there. So I was pretty good to go. But his commitment to our program and getting it done in the right way were paramount. to our decision to offer Kim Dameron the head job. And without question and without doubt in my mind, Kim Dameron was my first choice and our first choice as an institution. So it's with great pleasure that I have the opportunity to introduce our new head coach, Kim Dameron. Welcome to EIU.
I have one of the world's smallest heads, but hopefully there's something packed in there, I don't know. But there we go. I'd like to thank Coach Spoo for being here. Coach, it's great to see you. One of the most intimidating things in the world is to try to follow legends. And I've played or coached against Coach Spoo probably more than I coached for him, but since 1987. But what a standard he has set for this program over those long years. And I will wake up every day knowing that my task is to try to live up to that standard. I was raised by a coach. And that's all I've known is ball. And I'm not the original Coach Dameron. My father is. And I learned great lessons from him. And if anybody ever asks, I'll go ahead and answer one of the first questions that people ask me is, who's the most influential coach that you've ever worked for or with or whatever? It's my father, and there's no question about it, hands down. Extremely excited and enthused about this opportunity. I was asked by other people, other coaches, you sure you want to go in there and follow a guy that just went back to back? And I'm like, absolutely I want to follow a guy that went. That means it's not broke. I've taken over some programs as a coordinator or as a position coach where you go in and it was broke. And it's tough. Starting from ground zero, but this is not starting from ground zero. This is taking over a program that was first class and at a high level for many, many years with Coach Spoo, and then with Coach Babers here over the last 2 years, and the things that he and his staff did. I'm very thankful and appreciative to he and his staff for the things that they did and the standards they set and the people they have in place. As far as players are concerned, I can't wait to get started. I am just overly excited about the fact and the opportunities and the potential here to do great things. And so coming in behind that kind of record over the last couple of years excites me more than anything. I can't wait to get started with these players. We want to continue with the traditions and especially the momentum that has been achieved here over the last 2 years, and we want to just take that and build on it. One of the things that excites me about this, about EIU, is the recruiting base that we have. We want to start at home. We want to start in the state of Illinois and locally, and then we want to expand from here. And I've always been a big believer in you recruit most of your players from within about 300 miles of your campus. And then after that, if you do have some people around, and I have a lot of connections from around the country that I know coaches and high school coaches and all that stuff, but for the most part, we want to be a Midwest football team. And we want the heart of this football team to come from the state of Illinois. We want some of the arms and legs maybe to come from Florida and Texas. But we're going to be quick about what we do, but we are not going to rush. And that goes for hiring staff. My criteria for hiring staff is pretty high. And I want great coaches and I want great men, because I know the type of leadership that I want these players here to be under. Recruiting is 365 days a year in this game. And if you don't do it, it's the guy that hired me, gave me my first job, was Jesse Branch when we were at Southwest Missouri, and I was 26 years old, and he said recruiting is like shaving. If you don't do it, one day they'll notice. So I just we'll get on that as quickly as we can. But again, in closing, I just want to say thank you so much to EIU, and I can't wait to get started. So now we'll open it up, I guess, for questions. Questions about the offense?
About the offense, what you
Up tempo, fast, exciting.
I don't know if that'll work yet.
Yeah, well, you know, it's going to be a major change because, 3 yards in a cloud of dust from the last couple of years. I don't know if it's going to get it, but no. As a defensive coordinator and defensive coach my entire career, I know what's hard to defend. And there are certain things that will be hallmarks of the offense that we have. And obviously what you're seeing around the country today and the direction that everybody really is going is you're going to spread people out. You're going to make them defend 53 1/3 yards. You're going to make sure that you have playmakers at every spot and not get them all bunched up if you don't have to. Hopefully you got some guys that can beat one-on-one coverage. The thing that excites me about here is a lot of those things are in place already. I know we have running backs, we have receivers, we have an offensive line, we have a lot of different things. We're losing a great player, a couple of great players, obviously. I mean, you don't win the Walter Payton Award if you're not a great player. The first time that I was here, I got to spend 1 year with another Walter Payton Award winner, Tony Romo, and then get to watch him the rest of his career. But so that's obviously job one, is to find out who I'm going to give the keys to the Ferrari. But we plan on having a Ferrari. And then should I expand on the rest of it? I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to be involved with the defense, but I'm going to hire an offensive coordinator and I'm going to let him go to work. And I'm not going to try to do both, or I'm not going to try to do something that's not my expertise. I'm going to lead this football team as a team. I am going to make sure that offensively, though, we're going to be exciting to watch.
Defensively, will you have a coordinator, or will you
I will.
have the coordinator?
I will. I'm in negotiation right now with one of the I think most exciting parts of what I'm doing. He's young. It'll be his first time to coordinate, but in my dealings with him, I've only known him since he was born. So I know his father. His father's a great coach. I've worked with his father, and so at a later time we'll be announcing those things, but I feel very confident that my negotiation with him will be successful also.
Will be your defense that you...
No, not necessarily. I mean, I really, to be honest with you, I don't know what my defense is. I'm as multiple as you can get. Here's the thing about football in general, but offensively, defensively, whatever it may be, we're going to look at the players that we have in the spring. That's what spring's about, is to learn about your football team. And we're going to find a way as a staff to put the best players that we have in the best positions to be successful. I was really pleased to see this morning that some of the comments from players that were here when I was here before were that I put them in position to make plays and to be successful, and that's what I've always prided myself on. I don't know if we're going to be 3 down. I don't know if we're going to be 4 down. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. But our defense will be within a system that's flexible enough to defend every offense, but also simple enough to be player friendly. I use the KILL system, keep it likable and learnable. I've learned many great lessons from many great head coaches. Obviously, one of them's in the room. And so my biggest challenge is just be myself, not try to be somebody else, do things the way I believe in doing them, And because, you know, what I've been telling myself is this: I'm gonna get one shot at this thing. I want to do it right the first time. And so to do that, I feel like I have to be myself. I have to enjoy what I do. I love going to work every day, and I want to make sure that the biggest thing is just keeping the focus on the kids. And that's been me from the beginning of my coaching career. I just want to keep the focus of what we're doing on our players and making them to be better students, better players, and better people. If we do that, we'll be successful.
Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's is a complete car facility for all your automotive repair and maintenance needs. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.